Once upon a time, in a fantasy scenario where only beasts are in control, an intense battle against a beast begins. But this is not just any beast, it is the Obsidian boss, who has immense power and strength of high rank. In the midst of this commotion, we see who will be the one to face this feared beast, and that's where we meet our protagonist, Yi Wu-yu. Yi Wu-yu is tired of murdering beasts of this type, and even the Obsidian boss alone is a mere nuisance to him. Yi Wu-yu also has immense power, and just by seeing what level 100 is, we can know that he has a great talent behind his sword. The protagonist is happy with the level that he will have killed the boss, and it is what motivates him to fight him. We see how the boss uses his strongest attack from the beginning, his Mega Strike. The protagonist realizes this and decides not to hold back against the beast, so he prepares himself and activates his maximum mode, a kind of turret that he plants on the surface to kill the beasts. The protagonist shoots and a huge light flash from the weapon, hitting the beast. The attack was enough to reduce the beast to ashes, and the protagonist emerges victorious once again. A message from the system appears to him, congratulating him and granting him new stats and raising his skills. The protagonist seems to be someone pretty cool. However, we are immensely disappointed to find out that the epic character we saw previously is only the character that the protagonist has in his video game. In reality, our main character is a chubby boy with a complex, who doesn't leave his room because of his love for games and lack of physical activity. Despite all the bad, there is something good. By always playing the video game, he became incredibly good at it, to the point of becoming bored because he already knew how the mechanics worked. He was even one of the best. His game is interrupted by his cell phone, which rings and he answers the call. He is surprised by the scolding he receives from one of his classmates. It turns out that the protagonist has not even gone to class once, and the faculty is now calling him to join again. His only response is that he has already skipped too many classes and no one cared for him, but now they do need him, the boy on the phone with the star. He mentions something about something that happened a year ago. But the protagonist cuts the call, avoiding the conversation, and mentions that he does not want to talk. After that, he turns to his desk where he sees a portrait of a girl who died in the aforementioned event. The protagonist blames himself for the death of this girl, wanting to drink instead. In the midst of the sadness of the protagonist, the phone rings again, and he answers it insulting since he believes that he is the same companion from a while ago, but it is not like that since at the phone screen a notice is on it which tells you, "Congratulations to you. You have become the only player in the end game. I hope you have a great time," the protagonist. You are confused, what was that notice? He is surprised with a light that suddenly came out of the phone. He was in shock, see how their statistics are displayed on a screen. It seems that this process, it is the start of a session in a kind of game. The statistics of the protagonist are not the best, it wasn't even close to being the worst, it was very bad, but it did have a very good amount of game points. And for the luck of this, the points can be exchanged for anything. The protagonist has not yet processed the situation, he thinks that this is a hoax, and, yes, in reality it is real, because he does not change those points for money. However, the system immediately made the exchange and the protagonist has a lot of money in his bank account. The protagonist is surprised. Suddenly, the door of the protagonist is hit hard. It is the landlady who comes to collect and insult him, since he had not paid in a very long time and was annoyed by this. The protagonist attends to her and tells her to stop yelling, and pays her rent for the past and that of the following years. An act that silences the landlady and leaves. Our protagonist closes the door and is speechless. The exchange had worked, and this gives him the understanding that what is happening is not a dream. The protagonist sees that the game is real. He deduces that if the points can be exchanged for anything, why not bring the girl from the photo back? But there is a problem, the protagonist had already run out of points and he needs 1 billion of these to bring the girl to life. He's happy, he supposes that if he earns enough points, he would bring the girl back. Is he really happy? And he promises to bring her back. In the midst of the protagonist's attention, he receives another message. This is one that gives him advice for the game, which is that the player will receive points by completing tasks of rare rank. And for good luck, there are tasks of this type available, so without thinking he accepted it. What kinds of tasks will be fighting a beast or clearing a dungeon? No, the protagonist is collecting garbage, which he does since he receives points for doing so. And he succeeds with picking up waste at their school. They all look at him like he's crazy and confirm his madness when the protagonist is sent to pick up garbage in the female bathroom. But he did it for the number of points he would get, to later be labeled a pervert. The protagonist had received 100 points working every day, a little disappointed, but if the goal is what has him firm, which is to bring back the girl who is called Yuyi. The protagonist receives a message which rewards him for completing 50 tasks, and the prize is a kind of roulette which can win prizes randomly. The protagonist lets it pass, since if he keeps it for 10 years, the points could be doubled. He dedicates himself to looking for another way to earn points. The protagonist, distracted on the cell phone, stumbles on the breasts of a girl. He reacts quickly and apologizes to the girl, mentioning that it was not on purpose. The girl does not take it badly and says that she did not think that a fat man would be so brave, referring to the protagonist. He was still apologizing, and the girl tells him that he doesn't have to do it and that he fixes it himself. This surprises the protagonist, and he says that how can he compensate her? What is, a strange purple frame began to sprout, and he replies that he wants the points of the prota staring at him. Before the protagonist finished speaking and saw that she is one like him, the girl uses an activated ability against the city separation, which encloses the enemy in a space created by the user in which it is not possible to connect with the rest. The main character was confused about that purple thing. However, the girl appears behind the main character and attacks him, severely damaging the arm. The system began to launch alerts about that he is severely injured. The protagonist, writhing in pain, and the girl only says that his blood is delicious because of the fat it has. The protagonist, on the other hand, tries to calm her down and tells her that if she was one like him, why not join forces and get points together? Her response was a laugh, mentioning that points are earned by double murdering other players, and that only beginners do the tasks. The protagonist decides to flee. He did not want to die there since he still has the objective of reviving the girl. In the distance, he sees another person, but thanks to the girl's ability he only sees him as a mirage. Nothing could save him now. The girl pounces on the protagonist and runs through him with her handgun, causing critical death wounds. The protagonist is lying on the ground, bleeding out, and with the background system alerting that he is injured and about to die. The protagonist is disappointed. He had not even reached the look of his goal, but the protagonist, when he is about to die, he remembers something about the lottery prize. He uses the ability activating roulette. The girl, on the other hand, likes to see how the protagonist suffers and mentions that being of low level, the rewards would be very bad. This rotates, and if it does not touch anything, only one try again. This makes the protagonist finish dying. The girl laughs at him, but not for long, since when he is dying on the ground, the lottery system ends spinning. This time, he got a team of special items. The girl is confused, she had never heard of that. The protagonist, on the other hand, was recovering, which makes the girl attack him to prevent it. But when he is arriving, an emerging blue light from the protagonist stops her and makes her go back. The girl knows that something is wrong suddenly from the bottom of the light. A kind of sword almost reaches her, which makes her go back more. Perhaps that was the power of the rare equipment, and if the protagonist comes out of the light as new since he had healed, he even received a devouring sword for the rare equipment. The girl is confused. Someone who is so new to the game can't control that power. The protagonist, already confident by his equipment, tells him to turn himself in. The girl just laughs. Perhaps he is so ignorant as to believe that victory in the game is about the one who has the best weapons. What matters is the experience and how you fight, and she is willing to teach him a lesson of that. The protagonist does not like to be underestimated and challenges her to enter into combat with him. The girl laughs and pounces on the protagonist, clash swords, but the difference in ability is too much, so it can be seen that the girl is only playing with the protagonist since she is moving from one side to the other, making him dizzy. The girl tells him that this is disappointing. He is giving all his effort and he is not able to touch her. The girl is in front of the protagonist and creates a combustion around it, causing injuries. The protagonist does not give up, he still has things to do and refuses to die there. Suddenly, warnings start appearing. These were warnings. This one said that the sword had detected level 100 and that it could be used as equipment, and that if he wanted to update his current equipment, the protagonist does not think about it and the update begins. The blue light appears again, falling on the protagonist. The girl is fed up. This guy was already getting skills out of nowhere. Suddenly from the light, a new warrior emerges faster and with better conditions. Physics is incredibly strong and fights against the girl. It is the protagonist who got a sudden change thanks to having given himself over to the sword. The girl is already furious with her things and she is willing to show him the difference between the two. The protagonist doesn't let her finish and says that thanks to his power, his sword is spread all over the world territory and uses his mega ability. Suddenly, the ground starts to move and a blue lightning is destroying the surface, causing an explosion that throws the girl against the wall. The girl knows that power is immense, so she tries to apologize with the protagonist, to which he replies that he has no interest in her. He is still focused on those billion points. The protagonist in battle begins to arrive, the memories of the girl, who tells him to wake up and calls the protagonist's attention since he had promised to revive her with that game and that he has not done so. For this, he is disappointed and leaves. While doing so, the protagonist shouts his name so that later he gets hit by a truck. This was just flashbacks of the girl, and the protagonist wakes up with the sound of the cell phone that was receiving a call. It is again the partner. The protagonist attends only to get a scolding in which he tells him that if he did not show up to school, he would be expelled. The protagonist, upset by this, receives a message again. It is an urgent request in which he has to go to the university to kill a boss to win points. The protagonist wants the mission and hangs up on the partner and says that if he goes to school. The protagonist goes to school to avoid being expelled and receives strange looks of desire, confused on tour to see if form is surprised how it ended so well physically. It turns out that he lost all the fat in the process. He already understands everything and even receives a hint from the system, which tells him that the power he used previously is very exhausting. Therefore, if he uses it again, he could die. The protagonist understands that he has to use that power well and decides to buy clothes to enter the school already within the system, which allows him to do that. He buys some clothes and says he won't spend much points. Already at the university, he is praised by everyone for his new physique, something that he likes a lot, but it's not time for that. You need to think about how the game actually works before that another appears and kills him. The protagonist sees his states and understands that it is like a game and decides to give points to the body, but his abilities did not increase. The protagonist understood it according to the girl. Skill points are earned when you kill the opponent, something that he didn't do, so he can't. He also understands how his sword works, and a certain part is as he thinks, since there are some movements that do not use the wear and tear of his life. But he knows which is not as simple as you think, so you have to increase your experience. A basketball interrupts the protagonist, and they ask him to return it, but thank you at his points, he throws and breaks the ring. Everyone is speechless, but the protagonist had run to hide. He is able to do that only with 8 points. It is really amazing while you are hidden. The system informs you that if you wanted to receive locations automatic, this system indicates the path, therefore the protagonist follows it by means of arrows. He arrives at the location and it is in a girl's bathroom. He is thinking of entering since he doesn't want to appear perverted, but he still enters through the underground entrance. It seems that there is no one and the system indicates a cubicle. He thought that the entrance is down the toilet, but when he opens it, he gets a surprise that leaves him frozen. By a girl, he was inside it, and he yelled at him pervert before the protagonist apologized. The girl attacked him with a sickle. It seems that she is another player, and she mistakes the protagonist for a pervert that was in the faculty, so she is willing to put an end to it. The girl enters into combat with the protagonist, but this one is just trying to apologize since it is not what it seemed. Still, the system launches the warning that the fight between two players has started, and therefore another would part from the city with the same mirage. The girl realizes that it is an endgame player, what he likes, and positions himself for battle and attacks. The main character dodges and realizes the girl is serious and doesn't play games. The only solution is to fight her too, so she positions herself and stands up to her. The girl knows that the protagonist is a rookie since his aura says so and how he plans to beat her. The protagonist only answers that how will he know that he cannot defeat her if he does not try and clash swords. The girl wants to see if his ability is as strong as he says. The protagonist realizes that the girl is very strong despite a warning from the system appearing and says that the gate to the underground city is opening, sending them inside it. When they wake up, the protagonist receives a blow to the face when he sees that his hand was not where it should be. They had reached the underground city, which had an air of apocalypse. They get up and realize that they are surrounded of beasts with a wolf-like species. It is the protagonist's first time exploring this type of environments. The girl finally understands that the protagonist entered the women's bathroom around the city and that he is not a pervert. The girl understands everything but still knows that this is a level 2 novice, so she gives him some fighting tips and explains how are the details of a beast like the wolf. The color of the name represents its percentage of danger, the more alive, the more dangerous. Even so, the name is yellow, which is stronger than the protagonist, but they were no match for the girl. So, she pounces on them and they fall one by one, the protagonist watching from behind. He realizes that the girl is very good with weapons and knows how to use her skills well. The protagonist notices the attack on the girl's back and helps her by saving her from the wolf. The girl tells him that she will not thank him for that, but still says that the protagonist is not so bad. This and the girl introduce themselves. The girl's name is Xinyao Yung and the protagonist tells her his name is Xieyu. The girl is surprised and perhaps it is a coincidence and sends him a friend request. One that the protagonist accepts, but all the gifts and rewards are given to him will lead the leader, who in this case is the girl. The girl tells him that he is now her apprentice and to stay behind her so that he can learn. On the way, they defeat several creatures and both she and the protagonist level up somewhat. The protagonist likes this because he was also getting strong until he reached the point of power to deal damage to the creatures and be able to fight. Suddenly, they both stop at the warning of the boss that was in front of them. Suddenly, a kind of slime falls on the main character's shoulder, something that disgusts him a lot and he asks what it is. This type of slime is a protein and they are usually the ones that stick to the corpse to absorb its nutrients, but luckily it is harmless. When they enter the room, they run into a huge beast, a crocodile with poisonous bones. It has a red name and the protagonist is alarmed since he is very big. Even so, the girl pounces against him and slices it in half with her sword. The protagonist says that the girl is incredible and he used a mega strike suddenly when the girl turns. The slimes fall on top of him. The boss's corpse. The protagonist alerts him about this and the girl turns and when she sees it, she freezes. The girl cannot avoid the attack and is hit by numbing poison. The beast takes advantage of the girl's weakness and pounces on her. A huge explosion covers the girl, but the protagonist had taken her in his arms, preventing her from being killed. When she does this, a notification appears warning her that the update is in progress. The protagonist achieved this, but still needs time to assimilate everything. The beast had not been defeated yet, even though they came to think that it was not from the underground city, since it is of a higher rank and unlikely beasts like this one would appear in that environment. They had to have a lot of bad luck for a beast of that rank to appear. The protagonist, on the other hand, does not think about his luck. He wants to face the beast. The girl tells him not to be an idiot, his level is not enough to defeat him. Even so, he has no choice since she can't move and the best thing would be to fight, so get ready. The first objective is to distract him away from the girl. The protagonist succeeds, and the beast chases him while he runs aimlessly. Suddenly, the beast stops, and the protagonist worries. When he is there, an attack is turned. It is thrown at him, poison. The protagonist almost dodged it, but he still had the beast behind him. Thanks to the girl's notice, he managed to react, and with his sword, he stopped the attack. But still, he is poisoned, and the beast takes the opportunity to use one of its abilities, which causes a lot of damage to the main character. The beast does not let him recover and attacks again, without letting him breathe. But he barely manages to cover himself with his sword. He doesn't want to be eaten. However, the beast manages to connect a strong blow to the protagonist that leaves him on the floor in pain. And on the floor, he gives him another one that sends him to a wall. The worried girl sees all the commotion. The protagonist was already very short of life, and as if that were not enough, a second poison attack is getting closer. It's the end of this. He had nothing else to do until he remembers something. It seems he has another chance, one he can't waste. The girl sees how the beast attacks him and tells him to be careful. He was very weak, like to receive more attacks, but the protagonist dodges it. The beast attacks again with poison, but this time the protagonist does not receive any damage. The protagonist is eager to kill the beast and attacks it, doing some damage. Both the girl and he are surprised. She had really damaged him. The protagonist is more confident, but the beast does not stop for a moment and continues to attack. The protagonist backs down, but if Mega Strike was already fully charged. With a strong attack and a shout from the protagonist, the beast falls to the ground. The girl is surprised how she had done it. It is impossible to match his speed with his level. The protagonist explains that he had already memorized his attack patterns that varied in distance. If he was far away, he used poison. If he was at medium distance, he used lightning, and nearby attack melee. It's just a matter of knowing how he fights the enemy. The beast was not defeated, so the main character continues attacking. With the same bosses, 2 hours had passed, and the boss was already dying. But it wasn't until suddenly the boss's life bar recharged to the maximum. Since the beast was severely damaged, it went into some kind of explosive mode. It can't be real. They mentioned both. The main character was upset and almost defeated him, and now there is an explosive mode. The beast attacks him, and he realizes that it is a lot stronger and it is more difficult to deflect his attacks. He knows that every beast has an attack pattern, but if I hit him once, he would die. Suddenly, the beast turns all its attention towards the girl, who was numb in a corner. The protagonist realizes this, and the beast attacks her. She had not prepared. No healing position was dead, but the protagonist receives the attack by it through her chest. And tells the girl that she looks like the girl in the photo and you can't allow to watch him die and do nothing. Warnings began to come out. The heartbeat of the protagonist's heart is abnormal, and therefore will start a new update. While the main character bleeds to death, the update is being activated. The girl sees him with an angry face, concern. Suddenly, the protagonist starts the devourer mode and is recovering everything his previously lost level. A light begins to surround the body of the protagonist. It is about the update timer, which was already at 89%. The blue light comes back and falls on the hero. The update has already been completed, and this had reached the incredible figure of 120%. He had entered a demigod mode. The power ran through his veins. The beast, upon seeing this, attacks him, but only a blow from this course to neutralize the attack, followed by that he charges his sword, and blue light emerges from it and reaches contact with the beast. The girl, who couldn't see anything because of the light until it disappeared, was shocked. The beast had disappeared along with the underground city. How can that be possible? The beast had been defeated, and the reward would go to the leader. The protagonist, on the other hand, falls to the ground unconscious. The girl takes him to an apartment where the protagonist is having flashbacks about him. The event with the girl. He hugs the girl, thinking it's the other one. The girl doesn't like it and kicks him, yelling at him, "Pervert." The protagonist apologizes, since he thought otherwise, and still he was battle-dazed, surprised that he is still alive, since he almost died in battle. The protagonist checks his sword to notice that he had gained different attributes in. She asks the girl where she is, and she replies that she is in a hotel. The girl used the points so that the protagonist was there with her. "I even sell him so that his wounds will heal." The protagonist was asleep for 5 days in a row, and he has to be thankful because if it weren't for the girl's points, he would still be in bed. The girl is only interested in how she got her power in the sword. The main character is not even sure how he did it, so he doesn't explain it very well. Even so, he tells the girl that if he has ever been hunted like him. The girl tells him how many times he has been married, and it was only once, and he defeated her. The girl asks him to open the game map and he hadn't closed it. He explains that if he didn't close the map, other players can see his location, and being there for a long time, surely other players would come for them. And they were not wrong, since several players with different abilities and much stronger likes to hunt newbies, so they are close to the protagonist and the girl, to hunt them. One of the players who was leading realized that the location had disappeared. Surely the protagonist had felt their presence. The girl is worried. Others players should be very close to them, and not focus on other players, and when they have a goal, they don't rest until they have it. The girl explains why that new players earn points when they go to the underground city, and when they die, your points are dropped, and someone else can take those points. And the only bad thing about these newbies is that they lack experience. There are some players who kill with the hope that the points are too many, and another do it simply because they like to kill. The girl tells him that she is leaving. She does not want to be spied on because of the protagonist. He had saved her, but she also him, so she had to go. But the protagonist takes her hand. The girl tells him that she does not want to die with him. The protagonist tells the girl that he has a plan. Sure, and they can even make money with it, but I only needed her. On the other hand, other players had already realized that the location had been deactivated. They had turned off their map. The sister of this player asks if they can be leaving the scene since he is a little scared. The brother calls his attention if he was. They can earn a lot of points, so it's better to keep looking. The protagonist, who was watching them, informed the girl that he already had the location of 2, and the girl of 1, who was on the roof, who is a sniper. The protagonist goes out to get the attention of both, and he succeeds since the boy's sister chases him and he is running from her. All the other players are alarmed, and the protagonist had appeared, and his wait was not in vain. The protagonist tells the girl that he can't take much more, and where was the hunter? He answers that he is in the tower on the other side of your position, and it will hit you in the head if you lean out the window, so stop having to be careful. One of the players realizes the tiredness of the protagonist and will not let him go. So, flip some kind of coin of the which the boy's sister appears to attack the protagonist. The protagonist, surprised and tired, cursed the game. It is attack, but manages to dodge, but collides with a wall. The girl tells him that she wants his points, but there is something that the sniper did not count on. She knows exactly who the player is and is only targeting the pink-haired girl. So, she shoots, and a bullet goes through it. The brother sees the scene and worries about the girl's life. The girl is fine, but she realizes that there is a sniper nearby. Both believe that he is a partner of the protagonist, and we can see exactly what the plan is of this. Both players decide to go first for the sniper so that it does not cause more problems since they thought he was a partner of the protagonist. The boy tosses the coin towards the direction of the sniper, who was on the terrace of the building, confused as to why the rookie had not fallen until he realizes the account of the coin were the two players who went for the protagonist, and the girl had achieved their goal, and she tells him that now that he continues once, those who escape will not be able to return. Even so, the protagonist knows that the plan worked, but he underestimated a lot to the players since they are too strong and intelligent, something that spoiled partly Yes' plan since it was about easy escape and earn easy money, but they only managed to escape. The confused protagonist tells the girl what would happen if they died in this game. The girl covers his mouth and does not let him continue talking. He had felt that someone was approaching, and he is not confused, since a laugh is heard flattering the girl since she had felt if present something he hadn't noticed. This guy staring at the protagonist is willing to show him what happens if he dies in the game.